Hi everyone, thank you for coming out to the Graduate Student Trustee debate. I'm Yami Nadari, I'm the undergraduate student trustee, so whoever wins this will be working with me for the next year. So my election this year. So the graduate student trustee position is really an opportunity, I think, for graduate students to have a voice on the board and work on really fascinating topics and building a strategy for the university in the years to come. Whoever gets elected will also be serving on the search committee for the new president. So there's really a lot at stake. I hope for a really exciting discussion of what you guys see as the future of our university. So to introduce the candidates that are moderator. First candidate is Dara Brown, who's a first-year law student. She was also a Cornell undergrad, graduated in 2013 from Arts and Sciences, and a former student senate representative. Amy Mola-Torres. Is a second-year DBM candidate in the College of Veterinary Medicine. She's a Bachelor of Philosophy in Biology and Psychology and a Bachelor of Arts studying Religious Studies from the University of Pittsburgh. Nate Rockus, who's live streaming with us, is a third-year PhD student in Mechanical Engineering and has a bachelor's from Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. And Tiffany St. Bernard is a third-year PhD student in Biomedical and Neural Engineering and has a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Connecticut studying biology. So those are our candidates, and our lovely moderator, Ms. Andrew Ritchie with the Cornell Studies Fund, is a junior college scholar, and will be asking you guys a number of questions. So looking forward to a really healthy discussion and debate. Thank you everyone for joining. I'll be moderating this debate. The format of we'll give each candidate 2 minutes to open statement, and then I'll be going to 5 different questions I'll be asking. Each candidate has 90 seconds to answer them. We'll take the stars and the order.
I'm sorry, I'm still having a little trouble hearing.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
That's a little better, yes.
Okay, I will speak louder.
Thank you.
So after the fifth question, I'll open it up to the floor. If anyone in the audience has any questions, we would love to hear them. If not, I have any more questions to ask. And then at the end, we'll leave it to 1 minute closing statements for each candidate, and then we'll end the debate. And I hope this will be very informative and healthy for everyone here. Are we all ready? All right, so my first question to the board of you is that Cornell Graduate Students United has publicly stated goals of organizing graduate student workers. They want to form a contract between a union and the university and improve work conditions for graduate students. Are you yourself a member of CGSU and why? Additionally, regardless of the membership in the union or in the union, to what extent will the support organization campaign as a member of the board of trustees? And Derek, do you want to start off?
Sure. So should I start with my opening statement first?
Oh, sorry, I totally forgot. Please start with your opening statement and then disregard the question just asked.
Okay, great. You can move it. Okay. Hi guys, my name is Dara Brown and I would like to be your next graduate student trustee. As graduate student trustee, you are not only the voice of the graduate school community, but you represent the Cornell community on the whole. If elected, I hope to best reflect the ideals and intuition of the Cornell community as vital decisions are being considered by our board of trustees. My key initiatives include increasing campus safety, encouraging a more inclusive campus culture, and preserving the legacies of Cornell's graduate programs as they are transformed into the College of Business. Students should vote for me because I will be the best voice for both the undergraduate and graduate communities. My experience, leadership, and activism as a Cornell undergrad and within the law school enable me to better understand what progress has been made and what still needs to be done to make this campus more safe, inclusive, and progressive. As an undergraduate student at Cornell, I chair the Women's Issues Committee on the Student Assembly, serve as our Arts and Sciences Student Assembly representative, co-chair the Alternative Breaks Program, the Public Service Center's largest service program. I was a member of a sorority, a pre-law fraternity, and on a club sports team. So I was very involved in the Cornell community. As a law school student, I served as a board member for both the Women's Law Coalition and the Public Interest Law Union, and as a member of the Black Law Students Association. An example of my ability to better understand the issues can be seen through my work as a student assembly representative. As a representative, I work to address both sexual assault and campus discrimination. In terms of campus safety, my focus was geared towards bystander prevention as an undergrad. However, recent meetings with the Cornell University Police have led me to believe that increased advocacy of the SHARE program and funding for late-night transportation services may be equally effective avenues for increasing campus safety. My strong relationship with the Cornell faculty, ability to identify and utilize resources effectively, and my determination to continually better our campus are just a few of the reasons why I would be the best addition to the board. Thank you.
So we're going to go next. I'm going to set up the timer so it's 2 minutes, but I can also put on my phone and see if that's all right. I can wait for you. Thank you.
So what was it set to?
Yeah, you're perfectly fine.
And if you could please do use the microphones, it might need to get a little closer to you, just to make sure that we've got the audio for the live stream. Thank you.
Maybe you should find a different online timer. Yeah. I would.
Sophia, why don't you use your phone and I'll find a thing.
Oh, that looks.
Thank you. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Trustee and I would love to be your student trustee. I've been involved in a number of Cornell activities and organizations since being at Cornell. I have a long track record of trying to make sure I serve the community that I'm involved in. For example, I'm also a co-founder of a nonprofit organization where I mentor middle and high school students as well as undergraduate students. I've been involved in student government, for example, serving on the General Committee of Graduate School, as well as being the chair of the Diversity and International Committee. Through all of my involvements, my number one goal is to not only think about what initiatives that I'm most interested in, but I make sure that I'm doing what most serves the community. For example, being involved in Diversity and International Committee's Let's Talk Diversity and Inclusion Dinner. Last semester, we focused on understanding what the community was looking for with respect to diversity and inclusion issues and to change the final climate. And this semester, we focused on accomplishing those goals and drilling down and discussing those in greater depth. And so, and yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Maybe whenever you're ready.
Hi everyone, as Yamini said, my name is Amy Moss-Horace and I'm a second-year veterinary student. Over the past 2 years, I've had the amazing opportunity to become involved at Cornell, whether it be through the GPSA, Cornell Catholic, or the dozens of veterinary school clubs and organizations. Through these experiences, I've met so many wonderful people, and I do not now hesitate to call Cornell my home. As the graduate student trustee, I would advocate for measures that will not only improve the university, but also the lives of my newfound family, the Cornell undergraduates, graduate, and professional students. I have many issues that I would encourage the board to address, including finding solutions to the ever-increasing student loan debt, remaining committed to becoming carbon neutral by 2035, and becoming a fair chance employer. However, my main priority would be communicating and collaborating with all of my constituents and learning and advocating for issues you deem important. Not only do I desire to advocate for the needs and wants of my Cornell family, but I am well qualified to do so. Majoring in biology, psychology, and religious studies, and minoring in chemistry at the University of Pittsburgh, I gained not only an appreciation of, but an understanding of the issues affecting the natural sciences, social sciences, and humanities. This, in addition to the experience I've gained through a plethora of leadership positions, is what makes me an excellent candidate for the graduate student trustee position. Thank you.
Nate, whenever you're ready to go.
Thank you. So, my name is Nate Rogers. I'm a third-year PhD student in mechanical engineering, and my kind of philosophy on what being part of a student is more than just your academics. And so, since I came to Cornell, I got involved with the Graduate Professional Student Assembly and some other kind of organizing groups on campus as a way to kind of get to know how Cornell works and what goes on here. I've been involved with the President's Council on Alcohol and Other Drugs, the Council on AIDS and Prevention. I got involved in the Cornell Bear Walk, which happens once a year. I've been on the organizing committee for every year that that's taking place. And my involvement in the Graduate Professional Student Assembly has increased from mechanical engineering field rep to voting member of physical sciences. And this past year, I've been both the vice president for operations, and so I've overseen the appointments to all of the external and internal committees that exist on campus that have graduate student participation. And I've also been the liaison to the Faculty Senate, where we worked on not light issues, including student and faculty sexual relationships and harassment. I'm running for the student trustee position because there's a lot of issues that we can address at the lower level, at the kind of the student assembly, graduate professional student assembly type of level. But there are a few that I feel are really important that can only be addressed at the trustee level, including affordability of off-campus housing, meaningful access to university decision makers, and something that hopefully we have time to get into, which is the support level for international students as we plan the enrollment increases in the near future. Thank you.
So we'll get started with the questions. I'm just going to reiterate the question that I had asked too early. And this time we'll go around the first question, so they will answer the first question first. We'll go with this one which goes up instead of down, and we'll need to. All right, you guys ready for the first question? Great. So the Cornell Graduate Students United is a union that has a publicly stated goal of organizing graduate students, forming a contract between the union and the university, and improving working conditions for graduate students. Are you personally a member of CGSU, Cornell Graduate Students United, and why? Additionally, regardless of your membership in the union, to what extent will you support the organization's efforts as a member of the Board of Trustees? Nate, did you hear that?
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead.
So the unionization issue is an interesting one, particularly as from my position on the GPSA. We've decided to, in order to not repeat kind of the incident that happened in the early 2000s, that the GPSA is going to remain neutral on this issue, at least until the membership votes on having a position one way or another. My personal feelings on unionization are that if the bargaining unit votes for it, I'm all for it. I think the key thing there is how the CGSU defines their bargaining unit. TAs, I think, might be a good bet, but if you try to open up to all graduate students in general, graduate students like myself that's on a fellowship, I think that's a little trickier to kind of argue that we're employees. But I think that's best left up to the graduate students and the bargaining unit.
To kind of clarify or specify, have you signed a union card for CGSU?
No, I have not signed a union card. I think it would be a little inappropriate considering my position in the GPSA to sign a union card at this point.
Great, thank you so much. You have a few seconds left if you want to further answer any questions or make another statement.
No, that's it. Is the timer running right now? Because I can't see anything, it's just white.
Yes, unfortunately. Do you want
Okay, well, no, I yield my time back. I'm okay. Unless you have further questions.
I sent you the URL for the stopwatch one. If you want to change it up. Go ahead and ask the next question.
you mean, are you ready?
Oh,
Okay, perfect. Go ahead.
so as a veterinary student, we have the option of being employed as students in our first and second years. And then as part of our curriculum, we work for the hospital, work being a loose sense, we do our training in the hospital. So CGSU is not really incredibly relevant to the veterinary school, and thus I am not a member and I am not a student working at the hospital. However, of course, most of hopefully my constituents are graduate students, and I would love to find out more about this issue in terms of how the different fields feel they need to be represented in the union. Personally, I feel if they could be worked out, if specific worker employee issues could be worked out in the department, that would be best. Or if the students truly feel a need for a union, of course, I would advocate.
To what extent would you advocate for it as a trustee? How far would you go towards advocating for union?
So, of course, there's many issues you have to think about as a trustee and the overall health of Cornell as a whole. So once I get the Cornell's graduate students feedback, and I feel that they make a strong case for the union, I will push for the union dependent, regardless of what the smaller they do.
Thank you so much. We're going to just go into the other online.
Yeah, just if you, yeah.
Oh, there you go. Countdown.
Whenever you're ready.
So when the CGSU approached me first, it was to me it was no brainer to join. So I am a member of CGSU. I'm also wearing a pin in support of CGSU. So this week, CGSU was presented to the faculty senate, and they asked members to be there and wearing pins in respect and in support. And I will definitely be there to support CGSU, as well as during this whole campaign while meeting new graduate students and interacting with friends that I may not have otherwise. I make sure to bring up CGSU. So I've been also advocating for them on the ground floor with them from the beginning since my involvement. So one thing that I really appreciate about CGSU is that the diversity in the membership. I think that it's astonishing or mind-blowing to me that they're able to have so many people with so many different backgrounds, so many different perspectives. And we talk about Cornell being very disjointed and silent university, but this is one initiative where graduate students from any background come together and uniting on this front. So I would definitely support this.
Right, and there, whenever you're ready.
Great. So I definitely support CGSU's causes, but I think as a member of the board of trustees, you that there's going to be a lot of trustees who may not be completely in line with their views. So as a student representative, what I like to do is hear their concerns and find a way to meet their need for equalizing their resources, their pay, their benefits to the faculty, but also meeting the needs of the board of trustees and meeting their concerns. And I think you have to do both, but I definitely support the cause. I find that as a representative of the graduate students, we have to hear them out in the sense that they do deserve some sort of increase in benefits and increase in compensation for what they get to the university. And a lot of them are getting an equal amount of their service and time as faculty members who do receive full benefits.
To further clarify, could you perhaps speak on what some of the concerns that the Board of Trustees might have regarding teaching union from your perspective?
So actually, when I met with the dean of the law school and asked him for some suggestions on graduate school concerns, this was something that he mentioned. We didn't really go into depth with a lot of the concerns, but there was a recent Sun article I know a couple of weeks ago, kind of reviewing a lot of the not board concerns, but concerns that other school boards have had. I think Princeton was listed, and those have basically included resources. Like, do we have enough resources to allocate, and are these graduate students really pulling the same amount of weight as faculty members? So by producing evidence, really hearing out both sides of the issue, you really have to kind of, as a member of the board, you are a voice of the students, but you also have to find a midway in some of these issues, and I believe that this is one of those issues.
Great, thank you. So moving on to the next question. In 2012, the university shifted to a new budget model. This new model allows administrators to better track operating costs and revenues of each unit within the university. Administrators have said that this model has allowed them to distribute revenue more consistently and more proportionately. Some students and faculty members, however, have raised concerns that this puts units of the university with lower enrollment as perhaps being seen as cost centers and to be put on the chopping block or to be put on the block for further cuts. Do you believe this budget model aids Cornell's educational research missions? And further, as a trustee, you're going to be facing a lot of attention to the fiduciary responsibility to the university and to student interests. How do you plan to fight for student interests in the face of such pressures? Amy, if you want to start off with the answers.
So I think there's two parts that the board and people in general consider. One, money is also always a priority. Cornell is a business, so we have to think about money and income. However, it's also an educational institution. And that being said, we have to consider the smaller departments that aren't necessarily generating as much revenue, but are vital to the health of our culture and the university as a whole. I believe by addressing both of those concerns and meeting them, perhaps the money does need to be a little higher, more weighted than the significance of the studies themselves. But I think by at least truly considering what the value is in the educational program that doesn't generate as much money as, say, another one that is breaking all the dough, it will be able to reach an effective conclusion.
Okay, thank you. Tiffany, you want to go ahead?
Sure, I definitely believe that this budget model could potentially put some strains on the smaller programs. I think as a trustee member, we need to make sure that we are funding programs not only because they bring in more money, but because they are best for the university as a whole and also for our educational system. And for example, engineering programs, which I am an engineering student, are more well funded than, say, humanities or the arts. Though those programs are the ones that bring us entertainment and pleasure, and as well as they definitely need just as much attention and finesse as the other programs. And so I think that as a trustee and in voting in those types of funding situations, it's about a balancing act to make sure that you are, obviously bringing funding to make sure that the whole, unit and whole university moves forward, but at the same time making sure that these smaller programs are well funded and students are happy in those programs.
Thank you. Sure. So you raise a great point in that as part of the board of trustees, you have a role where you are focused on what's best for Cornell whole. So you have a fiduciary duty, but you also have to be a student advocate. And when it comes to the new revenue allocations, I believe that there's a lot of smaller groups on campus that pull more weight than the larger groups. For example, I just met with Dream, and they provide advocacy and support for undocumented immigrants on campus. It has a 15-person membership, but they're making more substantial changes than groups on campus with over 100 plus and potentially hundreds of participants. So I believe that we have to be able to look out for groups such as that and to see if there's an overhead organization that we can allocate funds to, like the Public Service Center, for example, so we don't lose out on those assets to our campus.
Could you briefly speak about maybe for academic institutions or organizations beyond the Dream Team, which is a student organization?
Yeah, so as far as academics, I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize with the College of Business is that when they're integrating the schools, a lot of it's because, for example, the Dyson School, sometimes it's been on the brink of losing its accreditation, not necessarily because it's smaller, but there's other factors to be considered. So sometimes when you're merging schools and kind of the creation of the College of Business, for example, the revenue model may be beneficial in that sense, that it's kind of encompassing the Dyson School into a broader program and we're using our funds more efficiently. So if with the new revenue model we're able to kind of replicate that process, I think it can be beneficial, but if not, then I think that as a student advocate, you have to raise your voice to make sure that we're not losing those assets. Thank you.
Nate, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, the new budget model's kind of interesting. I'm going to start by disagreeing with Amy. Cornell is not a business. I think it shares a lot of similar aspects to some businesses, but we're a nonprofit institution with a public mission. And I don't like how there's been this trend in higher education for the last maybe 10, 15 years where we've been moving towards treating universities like businesses, like Fortune 500 corporations, and getting presidents and treating them like CEOs. I think it's not an effective way to evaluate how a university operates. And so when we consider things like, for example, one of those large disciplines, you might think it's like the field of chemistry. There's so many undergraduates that take those intro chemistry classes, and because they have so many students, they end up getting a lot of money and resources for that. And, that results in them being able to pay their graduate students some of the highest stipends on campus. And so that's good for that department, but the thing is that a lot of those students in the chemistry program go into other disciplines as they progress through their academic career. Different fields. And to consider just that kind of attendance-based sort of financing model is really kind of short-sighted as far as how you distribute cash revenues.
Thank you. So moving on to the third question, this time we'll start with Tiffany. What you explicitly list diversity and inclusion as one of your top priorities, and have spoken generally about promoting students on campus. In what ways do you think diversity and inclusion can be improved for both graduate and undergraduate students? For which specific programs or policies, any, would you advocate for as a member of the Board of Trustees?
So, as I mentioned, I chair the Diversity and International Committee for GPSA, and I also mentioned that I try to make sure that I'm advocating for things that the community finds to be most important. So, one of the top things that came out of our Let's Talk Diversity Inclusion dinner was hiring diverse faculty and administration. And so, as a trustee, that would be one of the number one things that I'll be advocating for. It's obviously a slow and tedious process. I do know that the university is trying very hard to change and recruit more diverse faculty members, but at the same time, I feel like that's an area that we can definitely be improving on. And it's like the dine and discuss or the break bread, where there are trustees in the room. That could be, say, a topic of discussion, so that it's not only between up to myself as representative to voice that to trustees, but also undergraduate students can, be at the table, or not graduate and undergraduate students can be at the table and discuss those types of issues.
Could you briefly discuss maybe what are some common ways that you can increase retention and recruitment of more diverse faculty members?
Yeah, so that comes into, that's a multifaceted type of question, and partly is increasing the Cornell climate for diverse faculty members. So there are a number of groups that do so for the same way there's like student life for graduate students or undergraduate students. There's also organizations that are involved in improving the life of the Cornell experience, life for diverse faculty members. And I think we can continue doing those type of efforts.
Thank you. Dara, whenever you're ready.
So as an undergrad, my focus for inclusion was on the faculty or administrative level. So the question was, how do we motivate our faculty to stifle their own and students' unconscious biases to promote atmospheric inclusivity? So what triggered my realization that Cornell could do better on this front was an incident where a professor called a few females a derogatory and discriminatory term in front of a huge class. Despite complaints, the university did not act on this. So in turn, I brought this issue to the attention of the Student Assembly. We passed a resolution asking Cornell to encourage diversity and campus inclusiveness, and argued that by not addressing what was done, this went against our university goals. So my focus has since turned, since joining law school here, to encouraging students to have more inclusive, students to be more inclusive and to limit their unconscious biases. I believe that in turn this would help us to attract a more diverse student population and to retain diverse students. Some ways we can do this is through potentially unconscious bias programming and orientation. I know at the faculty level they may have tried this. I believe that this is something we can discuss on the board. Another thing that we could do is enhance our mentorship programming. So this is something that we also discussed at the dinner this week. How do we get the undergraduate students to reach back to their alma maters to really grasp those minority students to come to our campus? And how do we get the graduate students to reach out to the undergrad students who are diverse and get them to apply to Cornell grad or various grad programs, just to really ensure that we're taking into account unrepresented minorities on our campus. Thank you.
Nate?
Yeah, so if you look at the institutional research dashboard that they put up on some information, I'm going to jump on what Tiffany said here with increasing diversity among the faculty. That's really the area where we see the least amount of diversity. And the new dean of faculty, I think he has an excellent idea where I think one of his points was making the emeritus professorships a little more attractive. The problem is less, I think we've been doing a pretty good job with hiring recently, but the thing is there's so much more lag with faculty because they'll stay on for 50, 60, 70 years than some of the undergrads. And so when you have a bunch of old white guys who've been stacking positions for a long time, you can't just kick them out. But in making the emeritus kind of faculty position a little more enticing and encouraging them to still participate in research or teaching or whatever it is they like to do, we can kind of move them off the payroll and let the more diverse faculty hires take those positions. I think on a more kind of ground level, when we talk about inclusion and diversity, one of kind of the areas where that's kind of in my realm at the moment, the SA, the Student Assembly, is going through this kind of like crisis of membership. They had a forum just last week about, do they need to restructure? How do they restructure themselves to let the identity groups that don't feel like they're being represented participate in the student governance process. And the GPSA has actually been looking at it too, a little bit kind of from our structural level. Are we, what's our diversity look like, not just, you know, racial and ethnic diversity, but even among our membership, we may have issues with, you know, is our student government body overly represented in the physical sciences, for example, and engineering, and that's something. And international students, are they?
Okay,
so that's a process that we've started, but it's kind of late in the year, and so it might be something that's going to have to get carried on over next year.
Thank you, Nate. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Moving on to the fourth question. Oh, sorry.
No worries. So at the veterinary school, across the nation at that school, there is a very, very low amount of African American males. And at Cornell, in our 4 classes, there's about 400 veterinary students. There's not one African American male. That doesn't illustrate, I believe, a problem in the admissions, but a problem in recruiting. And so, on the board, I would try to encourage programs that encourage undergrads or graduate students to go out to their alma maters, whether it be high school or undergrad, and just talk about it. Or even not to go to alma maters, but to go to inner city schools or schools where there is a high diversity ratio. The second thing I would also really encourage doing is for students as a whole to take classes where you might encounter a broader set of people. I know when I was taking my religious studies classes at Pitt, when I took Islamic studies, I met a wonderful group of people that I would not normally interact with. And I believe doing things like that, encouraging participation in those classes, will increase diversity and inclusion.
Really briefly, you mentioned recruiting for more diverse communities. What about creating more inclusive communities so that retention of those communities is also focused on?
So I would advocate not necessarily for just saying all Hispanics could have one organization and all African Americans could have another organization, but I would increase inclusion and retention by combining those groups and saying you don't need to isolate yourselves. We all are here for the same purpose, to get an education, and say foster those ideals instead of fostering ideals and keeping separate groups.
Thank you.
There was a box on the computer that blew away. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't. Keep an eye out.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Discharge.
It's fine now.
Yeah, so I'll look Technology.
My fourth question is that the next graduate professional student like Trustee will serve on the president administration committee, Cornell's 14th president. What are some of the top qualities you would look for in a next president, and what are some policy priorities you would set for that president? Sarah, you want to start, or I'm not sure if you're the one who's ready.
Yeah, it's my turn. I guess just thinking about the wonderful leadership of President Tara and President Scorpion and my time here as an undergrad, you know, they were very willing to hear out students and to meet with students, to have sessions talking about the current state of affairs on campus. And we're probably as transparent as far as President Scorpion was. I didn't get to interact with President Garrett as much, unfortunately, but President Scorpion was very transparent and willing to talk to students about what was going on with the university. And I think that's something we should look for in our next president. Policy-wise, I guess staying in tune with the pressing issues that campuses usually face and kind of how the laws change around these issues, such as sexual assault, immigration, and undocumented immigrants. Just being sure to see how their actions beforehand can really impact large and underrepresented those policy changes that could be happening on the New York State or national level, university-wide. Making sure there's committees who encompass students who are knowledgeable about the issues and are ready to advise the board, the president, or whoever on these sorts of issues.
Thank you.
Nate, whenever you're ready.
So I got the first part of that question. The top qualities I think we should be looking for in our next president is I think we want one that's really student focused. There's again, getting away from this Cornell is not a business kind of model. I don't want to see a president EO, one that's really only focused on the endowment and is focused on construction. I mean, those are good things. But I think seeing a track record of engaging students and interacting with them, even on issues where, especially on issues where the administration and the students may not necessarily be along, and those resolutions have come about well. I think that's what's going to be important going forward. Obviously, you know, I do a lot of things about some administrative practices and how they handle faculty disagreements, because I know we have a few of those kind of coming down the pipeline. But I think a student-focused president is probably my top 10. Sorry, did you have the second part to that question?
Yeah, what are some policy priorities you would want the president to prioritize?
What policies I want the new president to prioritize? That's a good question. I think so one of the things that's happening at Cornell right now is that there's plans for an increase in undergraduate student enrollment and an increase in professional and master's programs. It's kind of been sold as a revenue generating measure. This gets into my issue of how we think about our international students on campus. And I would like a president to, when they're considering that policy, to not think of students, professional master's students and international students in particular, as kind of like just pots of revenue for the university, and to really think of them as kind of these holistic students as they do.
Thank you. Yeah, to put you off there, but Amy, go ahead.
So there is two parts to that question: the qualities we want from the president and the policies we want them to implement. But for me, they are intricately connected. I believe those qualities that the president should have are going to directly influence how they really evaluate the policies. So I would like the new president to be truly have not only a willingness to meet with students, but a desire to learn from them. For they're going to be president of the university, and they need not just to meet with them, as I said, but to truly understand and learn what their priorities are and what they think the issues from the ground up. Secondly, I would love for the new president to be truly creative, and then it goes into some of the policies that I would want the president to address. The first one is to really think of ways that will decrease the student loan debt, whether that be finding affordable graduate student housing or thinking of ways for the state to donate or give more money to the university. Secondly, I would really look for a president who is an awareness and an understanding of the mental health crisis that is going on and kind of unspoken that I think really needs to be addressed and be innovated in ways that could really make a substantial change in the way we view and treat mental health.
So the three qualities that I think that the next president should embody are very similar to those of President Garrett. And so I think that they need to definitely have a good ear and be listening to the needs and wants of the student body as well as the administration. I think they need to be passionate and be driven to make these changes. And obviously they need to be great at executing on what they say they're going to do. I think that that's one quality that I try to live by, and I think that our next president should also make sure that if they say they're going to do something, they do it. I'm sure we all appreciate that. So another thing is I think that they should definitely be mission driven. Going back to the mission of Cornell, I think that's the best way to run a non-profit organization as even a large organization like Cornell, when it comes down to those hard decisions, you should go back to your mission statement, where Cornell is a place where any and everybody can get an education, no matter of their background, their sexual orientation, they have disability, or anything. And so, making sure that they are mission driven will also help us make those hard decisions. And so, basically, really quickly, what policies that I would like to address, it comes down to basically my platform, where it comes to housing, communication, diversity and inclusion, as well as engagement. And that comes basically down to what the Cornell has been voicing time and time again as the 18 wishes of the Bible. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Wow. All right. Your answer. At this point, I'd like to open up to the audience. I know I just asked a good question before I do so, but taking a little bit a longer time than usual. Is there anyone who's sitting right next to me who would like to ask a question to any right now?
Hi. First, thank you for being willing to take on this, what I think is a great responsibility, and to put up student voice at the board. I should probably introduce myself. I'm Teja. I'm the Executive Vice President of the GPSA. So I guess one question I had for all four of you is a hypothetical situation. Actually, it's not that hypothetical, but is if you have a fundamental policy disagreement with either students or members of the board, which I think can happen, and this possibly will happen at some point. What is, one, your philosophy for protest and disagreement? How would you do that? And if there is an example where you have had to make that hard choice, where you fundamentally disagreed with someone, how did you resolve it? Or, how did you take steps to resolve it or deal with those issues?
Yeah, sure. I think that when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, it seems like we're all been saying is that it's not up to our personal opinion making decisions. It's really about being informed and educated. So making sure that I'm making the most informed and educated decision, that's the way I go about it. And so being educated on both sides, say whether it's something disagreement with the student body, I'm making sure that I'm talking to the right individuals to make sure that I have the whole story together, and this is exactly, this is the best decision for the overall greater good. On either side, that's the way I definitely go about doing so. An example of doing so is, say, serving on the general committee for the graduate school. They now want to have students to be able to, future students to be able to take a minor in business, though. Right now, it's not mandatory that they take an advisor for that minor. But my thought on that is that if you're going to make it a minor, any other minor requires an advisor, and if it's going to be something real, they should be going through a real experience. And so I advocated to make sure that that should happen, even though obviously at the end of the day, it's one voice in an extra number of individuals, but I'm still willing to make sure that my opinion is heard and is from the perspective of what's best for everybody.
Thank you. Sure. So I think it's kind of a two-pronged question, actually. I think when you're dealing with students in a forum like the GPSA, oftentimes there's a vote, and some students are going to disagree with your policy. But the students who are for your policy should have the majority of votes and win, and you're representing the student voice in that case. So the way you work around that is, you hear everyone out, you can sometimes alter your original resolution or your policy to kind of meet the needs of the individuals that are in disagreement. But as a GPSA, when you pass that resolution, you are just acting as the voice of the students. I think on an administrative level, as far as being on the board of trustees, you are looking out for the best. So I believe that in the majority of situations, that will be looking out for the student's voice. But I imagine some situations where students might have an opinion that differs from what the administration and the faculty and the board thinks is correct. I experienced a situation on the essay where I had a resolution that the faculty believe would bring really negative press to the university, and I was called into the administrative office to discuss it with them, and they asked me to please not bring this to the student assembly. So as a member of the student assembly, I looked up at the students first. I brought the resolution, we passed it with 1%, and I believe that it was a policy that bettered the university on a whole. So I believe I would use those tactics as a representative on the board of trustees as well to best meet the needs of students, and to keep in mind that as a member of the board, you are doing what's best for the university. Me?
Yeah, this is a good question because this kind of happens a lot. I've made the statement before that after spending so much time in shared governance and stuff at Cornell, I don't think I'm as easily intimidated maybe by the administrators as some other folks can be. And if I really felt the issue was right, I would vote. I'd be that lone dissenting vote against all the other trustees if it came down to it. I don't like to be in that situation. It's not something I would strive for. But if I really felt strongly about it, I would do it. I think there's also some misconceptions around the fact that yes, we're trustees and we're elected from the student body, but we're not exactly representatives in the same way that maybe the SA members are representatives, or the graduate professional students are representatives. Is we have a fiduciary responsibility to the university as a whole. With that being said, one of the issues I feel I'm very uncomfortable with is the fact that when presumably one of us will become a trustee, we're going to be required to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And this non-disclosure agreement means we can't say anything about what happened in the meetings, and the minutes stay sealed for 50 years, right? And when we talk about some of the issues that have come up recently on campus have been related to issues of transparency of decision making with the administrators. And so, I think it's about time someone really challenged that non-disclosure agreement. It doesn't have to be 50 years. Does it have to be as insanely closed as it is? And I think, me, or if it's anyone else, I'd like to see someone really stand up and say, maybe we should try and open this up.
Thank you. Thanks so much for coming, Keisha, and I really appreciate you asking a question. So what I see as, let's take it from the grand scale of that there's a disagreement on the board of trustees. So I would proceed in a series of steps that I do for any problem I have in my life. The first is I truly utilize my resources and those that I know. I ask advice from everyone, and that would include the students, the undergraduate students, the graduate and professional students. Because I am a veterinary student, yes, I know a lot of the issues that everyone faces, but I want to make sure I have the full picture. The next step would be coming to a conclusion myself of what I think are the biggest issues within the issue itself that needs to be resolved. The last step would be going back to the board of trustees. And granted, I would present my case in a non-confrontational way, because I believe that it's not the way to get things done. But to persuade them to truly at least consider my viewpoint. And I would talk individually to people or in small groups and try to truly see what I see as being my side of the issue.
Are there any more audience questions?
Hi everyone, I'm Aki, and I'm just gonna be the next international student representing the student assembly. One thing that came up this year is a change from the knowledge to be aware for international students' financial policy, and that's a decision that was taken by the trustees without really taking into consideration international students and their struggles, without engaging in a real conversation with them. So I was wondering what specifically you could do as a trustee be able to be aware of these powerful policy changes that are not necessarily advocated to graduate students, but who can affect undergrads in very tangible and negative ways.
Nate, you want to start?
Could you repeat some of that question a little bit? I didn't quite catch all of that.
Yeah, definitely. So
international student and the change to the need-aware policy.
So,
what was that last part?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go over the policy change very quickly. The international students financial aid policy used to be on a need-line basis, just as it is for American citizens. But they changed the policy to a need-aware basis, considering your financial background before admitting you at Cornell. So if Cornell cannot really give you financial aid, they reject you without that you got in, but then again, you get they just reject you before. And my question takes on a broader sort of perspective on how the graduate trustee would interact with undergraduates, and especially undergraduate international students, to hear about their concerns and bring that to the board of trustees, and also try to advocate for us that they don't have much to say when it comes to these decisions.
So how as trustees we would make ourselves aware of these issues facing the international students?
Yeah, and advocate for us.
And the faculty. So I was not a fan of the switch to a need-aware policy, because I think you might have said it takes the choice away from the students. It's kind of a unique thing that Cornell does that's limited to only a small number of universities in the United States where they do this guarantee that all your financial need gets met. I was aware of it because I'm aware of the committees that these decisions kind of percolate in before they rise to the level where a trustee might be aware of it. I think the reason why that decision was made the way it was, student on that committee. Sorry.
Can you just repeat that, like the last 10 seconds? We not hear you really close.
So the reason I think the decision came out the way it did was because there was only one student that was put on that committee that made that decision. It was headed by Dean Newt, and that student was Juliana Baptista, and she's appointed to a bazillion different committees all across the campus. And I think the administration, when they're doing things like that, when they're not selecting, they're just kind of picking the president of the GPSA, the president of the student assembly for all of these things. They're students too. They don't have time to attend all of the meetings. And I think that the administration needs to be able to open up and kind of accept that there's more depth of representation besides just the presidents of the organizations. And so as the trustee, I would encourage the administration to try and, when they're creating these kind of select committees to deliberate on these things and make policy recommendations, that they really try to recognize the depth of student representation in the SA, in the GPSA, in the other groups, and really draw on more people than just the presidents of the organizations, which is kind of the path that they've been taking now. When we see the decision like the need-aware policy, which doesn't make any sense in my mind.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you so much for your question and for attending as well. So what I would do as in pretty much any situation is I would once again come to you guys, interact with you, truly see your viewpoint. And luckily I am familiar with a lot of international issues. One of my roommates and best friends is from Colombia, so she encounters a lot of international student issues as well. So I get to hear firsthand from her about things that are going on internationally. So what I would do is once again come to you, learn your viewpoint, and I would go back to the trustees and truly convey that viewpoint. And I would, in the end, you guys are my constituents, but you have to look at the university as a whole. However, I would advocate for you until I found a better reason, until they provide me convincing evidence that for some reason the international student policy X, Y, and Z need to be changed. But I would most definitely defer to you guys to give me advice and wisdom on what you guys think the issues and problems are.
So, I understand that the switch, administration believes that it will not really change the way that, students are potentially selected. Though I do understand from keeping up with this whole process that this could potentially affect the number of students that would normally be able to find external funding sources because of, I believe, in the timing of when they would have been accepted and when those additional funding would have come in. And so I think the best way to represent these groups is going to the board of trustees with data. I don't think that if we just came as, or I represented the student voice just saying, we don't think this is going to work out, they would actually listen to us. And the best way to make a persuasive argument, and especially something like this that impacts so many students, is to make sure that we come together, we compile a very strong data-driven case, and present it and advocate for students on that in that way.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. I think as a member of the board of trustees and a student representative, you have to think in terms of synthesis before a decision is made. I think there's been times on the board where that decision has been made without adequate synthesis among student groups beforehand, such as with the creation of the College of Business, which I know is on a different scale than the need aware policy. But I think I'd approach getting students' input in 3 ways. I would reach out to various student organizations and potentially create a public forum for discussion. But also I realize that people or students who have busy schedules, and I think what's more effective is potentially written policies from groups and organizations, written statements and briefs with reasons or testimonies as to why this policy would affect them. I think that would be really effective to bring to a meeting and to bring to the board.
All right, so the board.
Good afternoon. My name is Chavez Carter, former president of the Black Graduate Student Association. I think I just kicked everybody out. So this is just a very good question. I think reading everybody's platform, everybody kind of, this was a little earlier mentioned, diversity as well as inclusion, which can be synonymous, but also can be very different, right? So in a lot of instances, looking at inclusion and diversity, a lot of people that are involved are people that are already passionate about it, right? So, for Mississippi, so always say, sometimes preaching to the choir. So people that you advocate with are people that's advocating with you, right? So in terms of, the population here at Cornell, but also, even maybe the board itself, which might not have inclusion or diversity at the top of the list, right? How have you, or how would you, I guess, traverse that obstacle?
Maybe you answer. Yeah, of course. Thank you for your question and for attending. So I would approach that issue mainly through education. So I think what is lacking when people consider diversity and inclusion is people don't really know. They don't know about other cultures. They don't know about other belief systems. This falling, I'm sorry. And I think by teaching, and even if it's something as small as like handing out flyers with fun facts or something like that, and just broadening people's horizons to understand that there is other cultures out there, but we're all in one university, in one country, in one world, and we advance by truly including those other viewpoints. So I would truly advocate for education, which would of course lead to inclusion and diversity. Thank you.
So I just want to start by maybe defining how I define diversity and inclusion. So a lot of people, when they think diversity, or even if you say inclusion, they think exclusion of majority groups or of any other groups. And so even in, say, forming my community through the diversity international committee, I made sure that I had diverse mindsets, diverse people from even the LGBTQ community, people from, I had made sure I had majority groups at the table, and that to me, I wanted my committee to be representative of Cornell, and so that's the way we were going to be able to make the most impact, is if we're able to relate with the diverse community that exists here. Yeah, also another thing that I try to think about is when we're creating events or advocating for things, we are conscious of the titles that we're using and the way that the wording of things, because that sometimes also excludes certain viewpoints and certain individuals, and we definitely want to make sure that we are as inclusive as possible.
Thank you. Yeah. Sure. So I think the question was, and thank you for your question, how to make it so at these events that are centered around diversity and inclusion that we don't see the same people at these events. And that's something that we discussed at the dinner this week as well. I think that a huge component of that could be having the events be more, I think, timing, and I think having an event can honestly help. I think maybe having the events less synopsis and issue-based, and instead maybe holding a banquet, something on the weekend, something that people feel comfortable going to and bringing their friends, versus kind of a sit-down discussion where they're immediately thinking that they may not have anything to contribute, and as we're all students, we have, especially in the grad student community, we have this busy schedules. So there needs to be a need among students to feel as if going to this event can be beneficial to them. And I think that that's not something that's at fault with the people who put on these events. I think it's students at fault who don't think they can learn from these events. And that's something we can't necessarily change, but by influencing students to realize how learning about diverse cultures, interacting, working, and learning about people, and it's going to be useful in life, it's going to be useful in their careers, it's going to be useful in many aspects of life after school. So if we can spread that message more evenly across campus, I think that would attract a more diverse population of these types of events. Thank you. Nate?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I'll share a personal anecdote. So this is I think the Sexual Violence Awareness Week or something like that. And there's I went to a nice little program that was put on at the Nines, I think Tuesday night. And it was really good. There was lots of performers, and it was kind of addressing the issue of sexual assault. And right at the very end, just as kind of everyone was clapping and cleaning up and hanging out, there was a whole bunch of fraternity brothers, one of the recent chapters that got in trouble for, I think, some rape allegations and whatnot, kind of came in, signed their name up, and walked out. And so they got their points for being there, but they were never actually there, right? And that's frustrating. I think lots of issues like that where you're right, it's kind of like preaching to the choir, where students have options available to them, but the ones who need to hear it most aren't taking advantage of it. I know there's been some talk of having like a mandatory requirement that was kind of a class related to like diversity and inclusion to be kind of part of like a core curriculum for all students. I think that's a great idea. At a personal level, I think that's something that's common in a lot of other places, and if you're not going to get people to attend, unless you make something mandatory. The thing is though about the trustee is I do feel like that decision doesn't really happen at the trustee level. I'd be in favor of it. I'd like to advocate for it, but I think that ultimately academic decisions need to happen among the faculty and the provost. And so that's kind of their special prerogative. And so I'd like to see them take that step at that level.
Thank you. We're trying to cut you off. I'll have to move to closing statements.
I know the woman over there had a question from the beginning, so maybe we can keep our 5 minutes to 30 seconds if she asks.
Sure. Yeah. Maria, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Maria J, and I'm a facilitator for Environmental Collaborative Campus. So my question to you is, there are two very different issues on environmental
purpose of Cornell University. One being the climate commitment to 2035, carbon neutrality. The other being possible investment. The first one is a matter of university policy, and we'll be learning from the president as they make senior administrative decisions on the roadmap that our university will go on. The second is directly related to the board of trustees and the decisions that they've made in the past in the dialogue. So can you briefly describe what is on your platform to address either of these issues, or what your position stance is on these two issues, if these are not on your platform? That would be fantastic.
Darren, do you want to start? Sure. Thank you for your question. I briefly mentioned the need to meet Cornell's goal of becoming carbon neutral in the next few decades in my special interest section on my platform. This is from reading articles in the Sun and reports recently done by the new search committee for ways to make campus more sustainable and to reach this goal. I know they've hired new individuals. They've hired 2 individuals who are experts in the field to help us reach this goal. But I guess the question is, what can we do at a student level? Unfortunately, I missed the ECO's event yesterday. I wish I could have attended. But just kind of seeing that the ECO has created a platform from leaders across the Cornell community who I assume were leaders of various environmental initiatives to come together and form this group to create a more carbon neutral campus. I'd really like to support their efforts and to learn more about what they're doing on their front and to present their information. I know this isn't an initiative, I guess, that the board is really overseeing, but should the issue come up, just be more informed on what we can do on the board level and on the student level to really reach that goal. Thank you. Nate?
Yeah, so I'll talk about divestment first. And divestment, so I've been involved in these conversations since the beginning when we voted, when the GPSA voted for divestment. I personally, I don't think divestment is really the best tactic to take at this time, because of, for several reasons, because I think it's not gonna, it doesn't really have the impact we want it to have as far as on the carbon neutral, or on the overall scope of climate change. But I don't like the idea of using our investment action, because that opens us up to a lot of criticism for a lot of other of our investments. As far as the carbon neutrality goes, though, I think where we can have the most impact is on our campus itself. We really do have to lead by example, and we need to be addressing, I think, you kind of have the Pareto principle, right? Where we need to address where on Cornell's campus are we producing the most carbon, right? And that's hopefully going to come out of this provost special committee on climate and sustainability, and we can identify what we need to change about Cornell and how we can change it from kind of an infrastructural level. Part of it may be cultural, about how students dining halls and leaving lights on and stuff, but I think we really need to have the data in first before we can say exactly what we're going to do and how to do it.
Thank you. I'm really glad you got to ask the question, because it's a really important issue overall. Just in climate change in general, study after study after study, person after person, high profile people, agency after agency, is saying that something needs to be done concerning global warming, climate change, fossil fuels. And Cornell, being one of the leading institutions in the world, I believe has a responsibility to be on the forefront of that research, of thinking of ways to solve this problem. And in that way, I think it is an issue that the board needs to be addressed. And that everyone, including from the students to the board members, need to be aware of and need to take action against, whether that be truly staying committed to carbon neutrality, or thinking of other ways that we can truly not only benefit Cornell as a whole, but the environment of the world. Thank you.
Sure. So thank you for the question. So I believe that one way of potentially addressing these issues would be to gain the feedback and insight from Cornell community and be it as a trustee being a liaison and making sure that the board of trustees is taking these initiatives seriously and are focusing on them. Yeah, unfortunately, that's an area that I haven't spent a lot of work, but that is definitely something that I do know that is a major concern. And if I were to become a trustee, I would definitely broaden the scope of work that I am involved in and be equally as passionate about making sure that these initiatives are being addressed.
Thank you. Well, that concludes the question part of this debate. We're going to move to opening statements and promises. We'll have 60 seconds. I really encourage all the candidates here to speak about, in addition to the business statement that you have in mind, to also address how you hope students will be accountable for promises you made during this debate. So, Nate, can we start with you?
Sure. So I think, as far as holding us accountable, I think that's an excellent thing. But it's going to be hard to do without having adequate transparency from the board of trustees themselves. When everything's a unanimous decision and the minutes are sealed for 50 years, I mean, it's really hard to kind of figure that out. I think when we're talking about promises that we're making, it's hard because we're one term. How are you going to punish us, right? I think there's some level of trust that has to be had there. Do you trust us to follow through what we say we're going to do? Who has the backbone to stand up to the administration when things get a little dicey? In that case, I think of the four of us in here, I think the best choice is me. So that's why I would encourage students to vote.
Thank you so much.
I not only think you should hold me accountable, but I want you to hold me accountable. Whether that's sending me 50 emails a day or knocking down the doors of the festival, we love visitors, so let's have you up there. Or if it's making a personal home visit, I think by election day, you should really hold me accountable. Tell me what you want, tell me what you need, tell me your thoughts. And my hope overall, if elected as the graduate student trustee, would be to truly thoughtfully and effectively advocate for student issues without being confrontational, but with a clear and firm presentation. Although my main priorities for the board to address are finding solutions to student loan debt, we may be committed to becoming carbon neutral and becoming a fair choice employer. In the end, I represent you. Although we may share similar goals, it is your issues and priorities that I want to learn about and address. When I was inducted into private accounting during my junior year of college, an honor bestowed on only 12 out of my class of 4,000, we learned the meaning of the Greek letters. Love and learning is the guide of life. This motto continues to be one of my guiding philosophies, and I would love and cherish the opportunity to learn from you all and advocate on your behalf as a member of the Board of Trustees.
So I'd love to be your student elected trustee. I believe they should hold me accountable. And for example, a lot of people said that, a lot of times we have state dinners. I keep going back to this, I feel like it's a good example for a lot of things that we've discussed, but people talk about how we have these talks and nothing happens. I definitely can show time and time again that anything that I've said that I believe that needs to happen or we should work together to achieve, I've made sure that I've accomplished those goals. It's not necessarily me by myself, it's a team of individuals, it's a community of individuals, and I definitely believe that I can have a similar impact on the Board of Trustees. Another point is that I think that communication of resources is one major issue, and I think that it's a two-way street. Is that the board is doing one thing, the people on the ground floor are doing another thing, and we're just not connecting, and that's definitely one thing that I want to make sure that I'm addressing.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. So thank you all for coming out to the debate today. If anything, this campaign has made me realize why Cornell is a special place to me. Our students' drive, innovativeness, and compassion for the community is unparalleled on the undergraduate and graduate level. And just being back in this hall where we have students that live sessions brings back memories of working with strong campus advocates to create substantial changes on our campus. You can hold me accountable because I have held the students' voices first amongst pressure from the faculty and administration. If elected student trustee, I can promise to represent our student voices to the best of my abilities and continue to make substantial changes on our campus. Thank you.
Well, I hope this debate has been informative and a wonderful discussion for everyone involved. Thank you so much, and remember that the voting begins on Monday. 8 a.m.